Welcome back to Respect the Process. I am Kelly Hunter, and I am joined by my good friend and voice of Crimson Tide Athletics, Chris Stewart, now the number 2 or number 1 team in the nation, depending on how you, well, okay, that's the thing. How do you feel about that, Chris Stewart? Should they have gotten the number 1 slot in both the coaches and the AP poll?
No, here's the thing. I think it's perfect.
Okay.
I love it because Nate Oates can still use the motivation of one poll doesn't think you're number 1.
Yeah, neither coach won. Yeah, exactly.
Not that you necessarily need the motivation. Bruce Pearl's doing the same thing with his squad. What they're both trying to do is take care of business Tuesday night so that Saturday's game will indeed be as big as we all hope it is.
And you called it last week. You said somehow, some way, it will be number 1 and number 2 playing. And sure as shooting, here we are.
And we got the more simpler path with Auburn losing, with Duke losing. It allows them to slide those 2 down in one poll, Bama up in the other. And I've just got the AP poll in front of me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what's more amazing.
4 or 5 SEC teams in the top
Alabama
5?
2, Duke 3, and or Florida 3 with Duke tied, and Tennessee at number 5. But I believe, Kelly, and you tell me if I'm wrong, the coaches poll has Bama 1, Auburn 2, Tennessee, or Florida 3, Tennessee 4. So you've got all SEC teams in the top 4. Is that correct?
It's pretty impressive.
It's amazing. But most importantly for our state, the fact that you're going to have college game day, you're going to make the argument. That's what they'll say, is that even though ESPN is tied to the coaches poll, they'll probably play that as 1 versus 1. And it'd be kind of foolish for them not to. And just from a marketing standpoint, and I think it'll be, it's fantastic. You know, I was actually, Andy Burcham beat me to the text. But we've been friends, as I've told you, for close to 30 years. And, he sent the text before I could about, isn't this amazing that we're going to have 1 versus 1 when we play on Saturday in basketball. And it is incredible because, there have been some low moments for both programs. But to have them now both where they are and where they've frankly been, but for this year, for them to talk about Alabama versus Auburn, and this will be the highest rated matchup between Alabama and Auburn in any sport ever.
That's true.
This is the first time it's ever been Alabama 1, Auburn 2 in a matchup, or vice versa, however you want to say it. Certainly 1 versus 1. And it's exciting. It really is. And even crazier to think, Kelly, this could be the first of potentially 4 meetings between the 2 programs, all of which would have championship ramifications.
Well, and it's crazy that Auburn can lose at home and still stay number 1, which, again, all plays into the narrative that we have now going into this coming Saturday with Auburn coming to Tuscaloosa. The Tide knew that Auburn had lost before they hit the floor on Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And obviously with coverage being delayed with Alabama and Arkansas because everybody was watching to see if Clemson was going to beat Duke. I just wonder, did that play into them knowing that, okay, we have to get the job done here at Arkansas to continue this for this meeting to occur?
I think I asked Nate that, but I don't remember. Yeah. He's usually really honest with the guys about things like this.
Yeah.
And I believe the conversation, probably went, hey, 1 and 2 have already gone down.
Right.
Don't be guilty of looking past who you've got, because first of all, Arkansas had won 2 straight games, but they're back home and, they're sitting here using the motivation themselves, probably that 1 and 2 are gone. Let's go get number 3 ourselves. And I'll tell you, I think Alabama would have been 1 in both polls had they maintained the 18-point advantage, or at least won that game by double digits over Arkansas on the road. I think Auburn not dropping was a combination of two things. Number one, what I just said about Alabama and not finishing it off the way they wanted to, but also the fact that there's so much respect for Florida. Yes, you lost at home, but you lost to a really good Florida team that's capable of winning the national championship as well. So it's going to be. I cannot wait to get to Nashville. I'm excited about what's ahead. I'd love to see Alabama win the SEC regular season title for the third time in 6 years under Nate Oates. But it would be that tournament, regardless, is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because the two teams that play for the SEC title, you could have two teams that play for the SEC title in Nashville, and then have two entirely different teams that play for the national championship.
Right.
That's just the reality of what this season will be. And the final, you could have a Final Four in Nashville, and then potentially have another Final Four in where you play in San Antonio, and it'd be four different teams.
And the argument could be made that 4 SEC teams could take the 4 number 1 spots, but I'm sure that will take care of itself. Yeah.
It will take care of itself.
This past Saturday night, it was the same starting lineup for the third straight game. You had Youngblood, Nelson Sears, Stevenson, and Cliff Murari. Interestingly enough, the Tide never trailed in this game. But as we said, their lead got to as big as 18 and got as narrow as 1 at points. Yeah,
I was thinking we were down 2-0 to start the game, but I may be wrong. It was still, once they took that lead, it was they were pretty much in command. And with 6.5 minutes to go, that was something Nate and I talked about today because we recorded.
You are right. Yes, they were.
We recorded today for Hey Coach, but he was just talking about, it's not just the fact that you lost an 18-point lead down to 2 points or 1, whatever it was at the tightest point. I think it was 2. It wasn't just that you lost it, but you lost that lead down to a 1-possession game in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, from 6.5 minutes down to 3.5, it was gone. And it was basically a brand new game the final 3.5 minutes of that contest. Right. So, and back and forth, and the fact that they were able to gather themselves and go ahead and claw out that win instead of ducking their heads and going, oh, man, we blew this, and still got it done. That was good to see. That was impressive to see. I've said it for weeks and months now, I guess. The biggest obstacle this team is going to have is not getting bored. And I think we saw another example of it when they got up 18. They took the foot off the gas a little bit because they got, Frank, a little bored. And
which is remarkable because Big Z seems like a pretty big obstacle to me when you were talking about Zvonimir Ivicic.
You did. Great job.
Okay.
Zvonimir Ivicic.
I mean, he was cooking. 5 of 9 from 3-point range, 27 points, 3 blocks, 3 steals, and 7 boards. That's a big guy. And yes, to find an answer to him, which they did, they kind of contained him. But as you said, got up by 18. And then, a good team, not saying that Arkansas is not a good team, but a good team is going to find a way back in that game.
Yeah. They're an incredibly talented team. And they have played well together recently. But for the course of the year, they have not been a good team. Good talent, great talent, but not a good team. And that, I know, has been frustrating for all the Pig people and their head coach as well, because the reality is, from an NIL standpoint, that is one of the 2 or 3 largest. It used to be a derogatory statement when you'd make this, Kelly, if you were in kind of a more than tongue-in-cheek, you were taking a real shot at somebody if you said payroll.
Right.
But from an NIL standpoint, it's the one of the 2 largest budgets that you'll find. I had people tell me in Fayetteville that the budget is probably larger than it is for football right now, for basketball.
That's nuts.
And that is, that's not shocking given what their history is with basketball and the love affair they have with it. And and kind of where football is right now. But they are talented, but that still doesn't guarantee that you'll play as a team. And that's one of the things I've talked with Nate about is I'm so impressed with his bunch. And you just watch them like at team meals. A couple of guys on Sunday were celebrating birthdays. I think it was Chris Youngblood and
did they come put the sombrero on him?
Drawing a blade. They did not. It was not like the typical Mexican restaurant. Aiden Holloway, I think, is the other one that had the birth. I think it was Aiden and Chris that had the birthdays on Sunday, and or maybe it wasn't. I may have it wrong, but anyway, there were two guys that did, and guys were sitting together. The team was sitting together to have dinner and watch the first half of the Super Bowl, and you can just tell. I mean, guys enjoy being around each other, and to have as many first-year guys in the program that they do, and to have that type of bond is pretty special, pretty impressive, and I think as much of a contributor to anything to them being in the spot they're in right now.
Well, and I want to talk about that because you came straight from instead of coming from Fayetteville back to Birmingham, y'all went Fayetteville to Austin to get ready for the game against Texas. And I mean, that's when you spend this kind of time together and you travel together. I mean, that shows a bond, and I think a maturity is created there because just for example, I know y'all said y'all slept in on Sunday because you didn't get into Austin until late. Did y'all get together to watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, they did. First half anyway.
Yeah.
They had team room where you have the meal and everything, and they had two big TVs set up in the room there to watch it, and so we did watch the first half together. Pretty entertaining, and if you're an Eagles fan, so was the second half as well. And for a day at least, I was an Eagles fan. Right. It's easy to,
like many of us,
pull for it when one team, from my perspective, especially, even if it wasn't six, even if it was just Jalen Hurts, but when there's a half dozen guys, I think, on that roster that you've interviewed before and been around, and it was pretty amazing for me to look back, and they're talking about the former Alabama quarterbacks that have played in a Super Bowl, and I was privileged to get to know all of them. Knew Bart Starr and was around him on several occasions. Have been around Joe, Namath, multiple times, and enjoyed doing some events in Tuscaloosa with him. And of course, besides working on the broadcast for Alabama football with Kenny, and we weren't on the actual game broadcast itself, but I was part of the pre and post and around Kenny all the time. Plus, as you know, we did a daily radio show for about a year together, and to know those guys, and I don't know Jalen Hurts well. He may or may not recognize me if he saw me, but I did interview him several times, especially post game after some big wins, and just so much respect for him, and how he's managed things. It was really cool to have a chance to see him and all those other guys, Devontae Smith certainly, part of that for a championship at the highest level.
So now you have a whole day, and then you have a late game tomorrow. So what do they spend? What do they spend today doing?
Well, today, as you and I are recording this mid-afternoon, they had an early afternoon practice, they had a morning practice. They got together for lunch, and then they're going to go to I think they had practice at the Texas practice facility this morning. Okay. But they will go to the arena where the game will take place tonight and have a shoot around. Yeah. And so they'll do that. They'll come back, have dinner. They'll get up at a pretty normal time, and I think go do a shoot around tomorrow. I did have the schedule for tomorrow in front of me.
I was
but
just
I don't
curious because tomorrow's a long day too.
Long day. It is. It's tough when you're on the road. The long day, the wait, we're we're talking this weekend. The ideal stuff is when if you've got a road game, everybody wants an 11 o'clock road
Right.
game on Saturday, so you can get done, fly back,
Be
and
back in your bed
if
at a
it
decent
goes
hour.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, or go back and celebrate it.
Yeah.
As a college student, Brian Passink said that when he was a player at Alabama, there was absolutely nothing better than winning a nationally televised game on the road at lunch and flying back in as a hero and getting to enjoy it, out on the town
Right.
on a Saturday night. He got to do that as a player, and when it happens, we'll be flying back and he'll go, man, I'm so jealous of those guys right now. He said it's about to be great to go back and be a Bama basketball player after a win on the road, just like football with early games. But it'll it'll be a very, very late night, and when they get back on
Thursday morning,
really it'll be we play Wednesday night. Excuse me,
Yeah.
Tuesday night, so early into Wednesday morning before we get back. And so, they'll have class on Wednesday. Guys have got their laptops. They were having to, do study hall last night. I said that they were watching the ball game. There were a couple of guys that had to go and take tests online, with it was interesting to see them talk about it. They're on a camera.
Yep.
Where there's what is it called? A proxy?
Yeah, Proctor.
Is that what it's called? Proctor, yeah. And they're on the webcam with somebody watching them, back in Tuscaloosa, and an advisor in person as well. Frankly, making sure everything's done on the up and up, just like they would in a classroom setting.
Yep.
So they do that, and they'll have class on Wednesday. They will probably have, if not the full day off, they'll probably get into the gym and shoot and go through, treatment in the training room.
Yeah.
Then Thursday, there will be a real practice. They'll probably go light on Friday and do walkthrough stuff. And then Saturday, I don't know if the guys will be there. Probably not for game day. Obviously,
Right.
Nate will. And then with it being a 3 o'clock game, that's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. I say 3. Is that right?
That's what I was going to ask you. That's the last I heard was 3 o'clock was set for tip-off
3 o'clock game time
on Saturday.
That's right.
Looking back at Arkansas, there was one number that jumped out at me. When you look at it, it was 56 points came from the paint, which in the past, this has been a 3-point driven team, but on Saturday night, they were 5 for 19 from beyond 3-point range. It shows obviously that this is where a lot of the cash is. But an interesting that I don't think I'd realized that they had become that heavy.
Well, here's the thing. When you see that number, especially for those of us that remember the old game.
Oh, yeah.
When you see points in the paint, you're thinking back to the basket, big men. Frankly, the bulk of those numbers probably come from guards scoring at the rim because they do spread the floor. A lot of penetrate and pitch. If you get shut off, you're kicking it to the outside. But the reality is, if you drew Z away from the basket for Arkansas, they had some bigs that were capable of blocking the shots, but the individual matchups were pretty good for Alabama after, if you could get a step on them. And our guards are so quick that even though there's a size advantage for some teams or most teams, the quickness still allows them to get by. And if there's not the big down there or help rotating over, they get shots at the rim. And I don't remember what the final free throw numbers were in the game. I do have them here. Alabama finished 12 of 18 from the stripe. Arkansas was 18 of 21. We were lucky we didn't lose the game there because that's 6 more free throws.
Yep.
And they made 2 more threes, amazingly. So you got outshot from 3-point range and from the free throw line and still managed to win on the road, which I'm not sure I would have. I'm not real sure I would have taken Alabama winning if I was told you lost those two numbers. But where
as is
where
typical,
they did
31,
win is
31 points off the bench, when you look at the
yeah,
guys that do come in and put in
sure.
double-digit numbers. One, LeBaron came in for 18 minutes, but was held to 2 baskets. Still, I think, figuring out how to get his role in the game.
Yeah, and it's not even so much that, Kelly, as it is, I think, him trying to get back to 100%.
Yeah.
And you're right. The confidence is not there. He's 1 of 6 shooting at 0 for 3 from
Yeah.
3. He's not where he was probably a month and a half ago, but he's, he has been battling injury a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why he originally wasn't in the starting lineup. And then, with Chris playing well and him still trying to get back to the shape that he was in before, I think that factors into it. But I'm looking at LeBaron's numbers, or I'm trying to find him. What did he play? 18 minutes
Yeah.
in that game. That's not a bad number for him or for anybody, frankly, with the way things go. I'm just going to guess. I'm going to pull this up because I'm having a look at the monitor here. 34 minutes for Mark. Grant played 28. Youngblood played 31.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did get, 13 more minutes than Phylon, and because the substitution pattern can change. But Cliff Amore only played 22.
Yeah, but look at Mo Diabate.
Jaron
You want to
Stevenson
talk
played
about
22 as well.
Mo maximizes his minutes. 15 minutes, 14 points, 4 fouls, 4 turnovers. He's going to give you a little bit of everything when he's in there, but he's going to give it 1,000% though.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And off the bench, Aiden Holloway played more minutes than Phylon, but Phylon still had, I think, 7th most minutes of the group. Mo is a guy that finds a way to contribute even when he's not his best. And Nate talked to me about that this afternoon. He said, look, 7 points and I'm sorry, wrong stat line there. But for Mo to go for 14 points and just 4 rebounds, he did have the 4 fouls, and his minutes were down because of the foul trouble. But while he gave up some rebound opportunities that he normally doesn't,
mm-hmm.
he was involved in one of the biggest plays of the game.
Right. When
it's a 2-point game, Youngblood misses the free throw. Yeah, with like under 6 seconds to go. Youngblood missed the free throw, and there's a loose ball, and his quick hands forced the deflection off of the Arkansas player,
mm-hmm.
which gave Bama the ball back, and they're able to ice it. So it was, he's a guy that factors so much in winning, but he's becoming, even though he didn't have a great game there Saturday, he's a guy that's becoming more of a threat on offense. I mean, mm-hmm. he's not just a second chance bucket guy. You can throw it to him and he can get his own shot, whether it's getting it to him in the post, creating his own move, or, as we've seen, a guy that can take it from beyond the arc and work his way to the basket as well. Just a complete basketball player that I don't want to get ahead of myself, but man, next year this team will look different when you take Mark Sears and Grant Nelson and Youngblood and who knows else off of it with the way things go now.
Yeah.
But good grief, with the guys that you forecast to be back, and Mo is certainly one of those. It's going to be fun. We're not going anywhere. That's the fun thing about this, Kelly, is that you can make the argument that we're in the heyday of Alabama basketball right now. Wimp had a phenomenal run for a longer period of time. Mark had some great years during a longer period of time. He didn't have as much or more success as Nate has had already, but there were still some good times in that period, and certainly CM's stretch was phenomenal. But this right now, this stretch that we're in, I think we'll ultimately look back and go, wow, what an incredible time this is. Again, if you're going off the coaches poll, factoring that in, this is the third time in 3 years that Alabama basketball has been ranked number one. It had only happened one other time in school history prior to Nate's arrival, and that was the season that Mark had coming off of the SEC championship when they won their first 7 or 8 after starting off 8th in the preseason, and 23 years ago, to be exact, when they were number one in the country on Christmas Day.
Speaking to that, I mean, Alabama basketball is on the map. Nate Oates is on the map. We're getting to the point in the season where some schools are already starting to look ahead to next year. And
Yep.
along those lines, they're talking about making a change at coach. How is Alabama protecting or taking care of Nate Oates so that when schools like Indiana or North Carolina or some of our traditional, powerhouse schools, they're gonna have to look at Nate Oates. That's gonna be someone that they're gonna be interested in. How does Alabama protect him?
It's very interesting because you're right. Indiana's going to come open.
Mm-hmm.
I think North Carolina will come open,
Mm-hmm.
but Kentucky was just open.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan was open 2 years ago. Those are programs that I think were or would have been very attractive to Nate Oates, but Greg Byrne, to his credit, made sure before last season was over with, he had Nate signed up to another deal. It's very good. It's a very generous contract, but it's also a very big buyout if he were to decide to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not that schools can't find a way to get who they want these days, but it would be a costly deal. I don't think he's going anywhere. First and foremost, I think he genuinely likes Tuscaloosa. I think he genuinely loves being at the University of Alabama.
Well, he's built something here. I mean, he is not just something. He has built a great program.
It's his. There is no doubt it's his. He's gotten the buy-in literally with the change to NIL. There's resources that have been made available clearly where he's shown he can compete at the highest level. And there's work being done, literally dirt moving on a new basketball facility, not a home arena, but on a new practice facility, basketball only area, and still continuing discussion on what's next from an arena standpoint. But look, I'm telling you, Saturday, especially if both Alabama and Auburn win their midweek games, Coleman Coliseum will be as loud and as electric as any other venue you want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
There are amenities that are nicer at some places. At most places, they are no nicer than what Alabama has. The bad seats are the bad seats. We talk about that all the time. But the bulk of them are really good. And it's a great venue. And I think the win-loss record shows that it's been a great home court advantage for Alabama. So it is just fine to be conducive to living. You're always looking to upgrade and improve. There's no doubt. But I think they're going to do everything they can to show that the commitment remains.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from a family dynamic, it's a great spot for him right now. I think that's where he wants to be. And certainly Alabama wants him there. He will have opportunities, no question. But I don't know that he cares about if the blue blood program mattered most to him. I think he would have taken Kentucky.
Gotcha.
Doesn't mean others can't come with generous offers and that things don't change. But I'll put it this way. I'll be very surprised and very sad if he were to go somewhere else anytime soon. I also think that he has put the program in a position that it will be looked at far different than it was when he took the job. And with Greg Byrne as the athletic director, I think the next hire will be as good as it can possibly be without it being Nate Oates to be the head coach.
Okay, let's speak to the immediate here because our next ball game, Texas Longhorns 15-9 overall, 4-7 in the conference. They've lost their last two games. Alabama should win this game. This is a game that Alabama should win, just so long as they don't get bored, and so long.
Typical of the league, though, Kelly. Yeah, typical of the league, though. I agree with you 100%. Should win, better club, but Texas is really, really good, and had A&M beat, couldn't finish it off. They're good enough to beat Alabama. If Bama doesn't play well and Texas plays as they're capable of, and I think they will. I mean, they're perceived to be an NCAA or in the conversation, I think, still for a tournament spot. But if they don't, they need a win over Alabama, just like Arkansas did.
Yeah.
And Arkansas pushed Bama to the limit.
But Alabama cannot look past Texas.
They cannot.
They have a big game Saturday, but they cannot look past Texas tomorrow night.
Everybody, us included, because it's what we do, is talking Auburn.
Yep.
And Auburn's still going to be big, and the rankings won't change. But it's not going to have the same luster to it if Alabama drops this ball game to Texas beforehand.
Yeah.
They need this. They need this win. They need to go in no worse than tied for first in the SEC standings when they take on Auburn this weekend. And the hope is that you're a game ahead because Vandy's given you some help and you've taken care of your own business.
8:00 tip-off tomorrow night. Again, what are you doing? Why?
Who knows?
What have you done?
You know how many women have asked me that in my lifetime? What are you doing?
8:00 tip-off tomorrow night. And then come back home Saturday. Obviously, this passes not just the eye test because ESPN is bringing College Game Day in. Big game on Saturday, in case people have not heard, with Auburn coming to Coleman Coliseum. That's a 3:00 tip-off for that game. And I can only imagine what the volume is going to be. And with the students coming in, that's going to be as big as they've gotten recently.
It is. My tickets are gone. Don't ask me. I will say this: game day is going to be there, and people have asked. It's open to the public.
Yeah.
They'll open the doors at 8:00. It's a 9:00 show. Doors will open at Coleman. Free admission.
Okay.
If you're, well, this happens a lot for football, where you come, you check out game day, you're part of the environment. You can do that for the basketball game Saturday.
Okay.
Come in town. Everybody loves being in Tuscaloosa for a game day and the excitement. From a basketball standpoint, it won't get any bigger. Come to town, be a part of game day, come inside, enjoy the experience, and then go enjoy Tuscaloosa game day. Get yourself ready, stake out your spot for where you're going to watch the game. And, I do think it's a chance for fans to have an impact on the program, even if you're not impacting the game. If we could have a phenomenal, I know the students are going to be there, but you can have your spot and take in the show and see how all of it works. I think if you have any interest in seeing how things work and behind the scenes with game day, this is a great opportunity to do it. You can see all of that take place live in front of you as you're there at Coleman. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun and an exciting opportunity for everybody. Can't wait for Saturday. But again, extremely hopeful we take care of business on Tuesday so that it'll set up to be as big as we hope it will be.
See, that's good to know. I hadn't heard that. Okay, before we go, last week we talked a little bit about Kalen DeBoer bringing back in Ryan Grubb in some offensive capacity. We're not quite sure. An update, it is official, but the contract has to be approved by the board, and they have not met yet. So we at least know that that has taken place. It is official. We're just waiting for the board's final approval to ensure that he is coming. And he's going to be on this coaching staff.
Yeah. And that is I say that it's a formality. I hadn't talked to a soul about it. But I look, if the athletic department is sending it out, then then it's considered a formality. If there were any concern for any reason, that wouldn't be coming out. So, yeah, he's coming as the OC, and I think that's huge. I mean, again, we talked about it last week. It's a guy that Nick Saban tried to hire. His loyalty to Kalen DeBoer and wanting to try to get that national championship, and they did get to the title game. He didn't want to leave it. It was a family decision and a professional decision to test the waters of the NFL for a year. And much like Nick Saban himself, NFL wasn't for him. Found the college greener. Game is. Yeah, it's not. And
always
so
greener.
Coming to Tuscaloosa, and excited to have him, and really excited to see what that Kalen DeBoer Alabama team will look to.
Well, we've been excited because we've been able to get Chris Stewart here through the magic of technology. And if you're looking for more Chris Stewart, you can always find him at chrisstewart.online, as well as listening on Crimson Tide Sports Radio Network. I think this is about all the damage we can do for one day, but we need to thank Scott Forrester for who is the best at his job. I don't even know what the title of his job is, but he is the best at his job. And so, Scott, thank you, because
magician.
You just been back there cooking. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate
Broadcast magician.
Find everything Alabama that you need on Cover Crimson, as well as every single day with Jim, Ryan, and Lance here on Next Round Live. For Chris Stewart, I'm Kelly Hunter. We thank you so much for watching. We will see you back here next week with a lot more to talk about. But before we go, Chris?
Roll Tide, everybody.
We'll see y'all next week. Take care.